Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of this series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Are we doing this again? Good
Always.
grief. How many of these things have we done?
603.
Good grief.
And I have found the list. Last time we talked about this, we did not have the list. I found out Wikipedia cut their list down, so I had to go to the Internet Archives to get our list of shows that we have beaten.
All right.
So we haven't done this in a while. So I'm going to start with Watch Mr. Wizard, which had 547 episodes. We beat them. We are also, Joe, we have more episodes than Thomas and Friends. So Thomas the Tank Engine has fallen to Crazy Comics and Stories, as has Survivor. American Idol. We have more episodes than American Idol, Joe.
Well, we should.
We have more episodes than Lassie. Lassie had 588. We've got 603.
Take that, Timmy.
We just barely beat one of my favorite shows that was on Comedy Central, At Midnight, which I guess is coming back on CBS after Colbert's Late Show. They're not going to continue the Late Show because the last couple of years the James Corden Late Show was losing money. We have more episodes than The Real World. Real World has 602 episodes. We have 603. Coming up, we will be beating the soap opera Texas, which ran for 617 episodes. Let's see. Gunsmoke, 644. That's our next big target. I'm sorry, Gunsmoke only had 635.
See, they're wimping out even as we speak.
Yep, it's the show above them, which is a soap opera, which had 644. America's Funniest Home Videos is quite a ways away, as is The Simpsons, although we will catch up with The Simpsons around their episode 800, which I would not be shocked if they go for more than that. Although I guess Harry Shearer had a health scare over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
He sounded very odd on his radio show, and he said it was an ocular migraine. But Harry Shearer, I've been listening to his radio show, Le Show, for a long time, and he, like all of us, is getting older, and it's starting to show in his voice. So, but there you go. There's where we are in the list of TV shows. We have Gunsmoke in our sights now.
Now, the sad thing is as we record this, we just came off a free comic book day, and I got oodles of things to talk about, but we can't, because this here is our timely previews show covering previews number 416 for May 23.
We've beaten previews.
I know.
We have more episodes than previews.
Take that, previews. And, of course, the two catalogs, Marvel previews number 20 and DC Connect number 36.
Now, on the covers, on the comic side cover, we have Red Sonja, who's getting her own series after a whole bunch of miniseries.
Yep.
Gosh, a new number one from Dynamite. That never happens.
Never happens. And, of course, we'll cover it when we get to Dynamite.
And then on the back, there will be 4 standalone specials for the Keanu Reeves series Berserker, which, oddly enough, has nothing to do with the song from Clerks. And then on the spine was the free comic book day for May 6th. So that is what is on previews. They also have all the stuff for free comic book day, because this was out the Wednesday before free comic book day. They have a nice big article on Conan. There is also a really nice article on to Morrows, the back issue 147, which pays tribute to George Perez. And then Steve Ditko is in a book by Jack C. Harris, who was an editor and writer at DC during the 70s, called Working with Ditko. Harris reveals details of their long Bronze Age collaboration and discusses the many projects they worked on, some that have never seen print. They have a lot of really short articles in previews that are just basically, press releases to hype upcoming books. Short interviews and such. I remember back when it was Advanced Comics in previews.
Oh, yeah.
The MCBA bought an ad in Advanced Comics, but we were not able to buy an ad in previews because previews said, oh, we only sell ads to comic publishers. That has long faded away as we've got an auction house with ads.
Which Kepi owns.
Well, that as well as other things. But
which, Kepi owns.
True.
It's like, it would be like if we were advertising, I don't know, say like you or I had a eBay store, or maybe even we did our own podcasts and things like that.
Or we have ads for people like these. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files that backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
You didn't see that coming, did you? Yeah, let's get that rolling. So now we can get right into the previews goodness, and we always start off right away with image.
Well, first we set the ground rules.
Oh, yeah.
And the ground rules are, we do not go through everything that we're buying. We go through
the
new stuff.
We're not making money off this, We're doing this out of our goodness of our, obsession, OCD. No, we just like doing it.
And also, if we did everything that we're buying, it would be, here's this comic, and here's this comic, and here's this comic. No, we only hit the new stuff. The stuff that is markedly different, such as a creative team change, collected editions, and original graphic novels.
For me, it's also a what if, because everything I mention, I will either order one way or another, wait for the trade, or just sigh wistfully. So as we normally do, grab the old previews, because this is as close to an interactive podcast as you'll get. And turn right away to page 52, which is my first image choice, called Per Evil. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Mirka Andolfo, Laura Brega. There is no escaping the mewing evil. Rita loves her daughter Deb, but a dark evil from her past threatens the lives of anyone who gets too close to it. Can the bond between two women overcome a life built on blood and lies? And what secret is lurking in the Mirando family apartment? This is a standout story about a relationship between a mother who gave everything for her daughter and a daughter who needs to figure out her role in a world that she is about to doom. It's Contemporary Women and Horror, for those of you. I like that image on the top. Puts what genre this falls into. And in case you wonder where the Purr-evil, P-U-R-R, comes from, oh, they're holding cats. And rather evil-looking cats at that.
For me, you got to go back to page 48.
Oh, hang on a second. Okay.
The unbelievable, unfortunately mostly unreadable, and nearly unpublishable Untold Tales of I Hate Fairyland, #1 of 5, written by Scotty Young and Dean Randke, and drawn by Aaron Conley, who drew Bully Wars, and Dean Randke. This is another spin-off of I Hate Fairyland. And everything Scotty Young does, I love. So this is another thing that Scotty Young is doing. So I'm ordering it. I will be ordering it as a trade, but I wanted to point it out for the people who buy as regular comics.
Yep. On page 56, Swan Song. This is an anthology of science fiction. W. Maxwell Prince, who did Ha Ha and Ice Cream Man, continues his weird winning one-shot formula with this all-new multi-artist project that explores the way things end and also how they never really do. Swan Song comprises stories about endings: end of the world, end of a marriage, end of a sentence, end of the world, which I suppose one might consider the beginning of a new world. Also along for the terminal rides are some of comics' best and brightest artists. And this is the first apocalyptic issue. I don't know. I guess it's a mini-series, although it doesn't say how many there will be. And as usual, on page 57, you get some really small artwork, but it looks beautiful, and it looks like it'd be kind of fun. All things come to a close. These things are swan songs. Cory?
On page 64, we get a original graphic novel, Parasocial, by Alex DeCampi, art by Erica Henderson. In the middle of the pandemic, a fading genre TV actor, fresh from his long-running series cancellation, collides with an obsessive fan at a Texas convention. When she lures him to her home, he'll have to put on the greatest performance of his life simply to survive till morning. Unless, of course, he's the real monster. This is it says here, this thrilling psychological suspense story is perfect for fans of stories like Stephen King's Misery and Scream, wherein toxic fandom hits a new level of scary. There are some sample pages. I like Alex DeCampi, and the story seems interesting enough that I'm going to be giving it a try.
Yeah, I've got that on my list as well. So this is kind of like Siskel and Ebert, if you remember them, if I'm not dating myself. If we give it 2 thumbs up, it's definitely worth checking out. Back on page 58, another miniseries, only 3 issues. This Ends Tonight. Under Action and Adventure, Gary Duggan, Jay Lee team up with co-writers Kevin Mao and Robert Wyndham and colorist Hyun Chung for this action-packed 3-issue limited series, which tells interconnected stories of violence and mayhem in Las Vegas. In this issue, 2 sisters fight their way across Vegas in a savage race to save lives. $4.99, 3 issues. I give it a shot. I was kind of on the fence on this one because I'm not quite sure. It's kind of like, well, 3 issues might be worth saving for a trade, but I'm going to pick this one up as it comes out. Cory?
Issue 68. Page 68. Good Comics for Bad People. This is a collection of the online comic strip Infamous. Extra fabulous. What drew me to it was that the introduction to it is written by Sarah Anderson, who draws Sarah's Scribbles. So her name drew me in, which is why you have people doing blurbs and introductions. And then I went and I looked at the website, and the web strip is really funny. So I'm looking forward to getting this as a book. It's also 240 pages for $14.99, which is really good for a hardcover. and how they should do web strip collections, because you could get it for free or you can hold it in your hand for a decent price. Joe?
Hang on a second. I got to write that one down. Good comics for bad people.
Not that we're bad people.
No. We're not
good people.
Yes, we are. Although someone wants to do a comic strip on us. Anyways.
What?
On page 63, I'm just going to point out for fans of Wanted, the Mark Miller Extravaganza, they're doing a special 20th anniversary edition with art and cover, of course, by J.G. Jones. 20 years of the Miller world. And on page 71, if you have not been picking up Oblivion Song, here's your chance to pick it up, because there's the Oblivion Song by Kirkman and Del Felici Compendium trade paperback. There, that's a hell of a mouthful. But the entire series is in a single volume. I picked it up. I think I hung around 10 issues, and then I tapped out figuring I'm just going to pick it up as trades. Never picked up the trades. I'm going to pick me up a compendium, which is, I guess, a softcover omnibus for those of us who are counting. But this baby's coming out August 9th, and it collects the entire saga, number 1 through 36.
There's a compendium on the next page, page 73.
Woo!
Although it's smaller, because it's Royal City, Volume 1. It collects issues 1 through 14. Royal City follows Patrick Pike, a fading literary star who reluctantly returns to his once thriving factory town where he grew up. There he is quickly drawn into the dramas of his 2 adult siblings, his overbearing mother, his browbeaten father, all of whom are still haunted by different versions of his younger brother, Tommy, who drowned decades ago. Jeff Lemire does this sort of stuff beautifully, and I really like his work. Jeff Lemire is one of those guys who I'm really happy his stuff is starting to break through with Sweet Tooth having the Netflix series and his other work starting to get more and more attention. I've liked his stuff for a while, looking forward to this one. Joe?
The final one I have has already come out. As I was wandering through the source, which I want to do every Wednesday, I picked up a copy of Junk Rabbit just because the cover caught my eye. Now, in the book on page 86, they're soliciting for number 4. It's only a 5-issue miniseries. However, I so enjoyed reading Junk Rabbit number 1, and Junk Rabbit number 2 came out maybe about a week as of recording this podcast, so 2 weeks. So if you get a chance, run down and pick it up. It's action adventure, dystopian science fiction, and it's just, the art was crazy, the story was amazing. It kind of left on cliffhangers, and you're trying to figure out just who is this Junk Rabbit and why is he or she, as it looks to be, running around, destroying the political military forces that are trying to figure out Junk Rabbit's secret identity. And of course, with issue 5 almost being solicited, if you cannot find 1 and 2, you need a better comic shop. I mean, a trade's coming out soon. So I missed this the first time. I went back and I looked. I don't think I talked about this. So there, I made up for it. And that's it for me, image-wise. Cory, anything else for you?
Yes, on page 76, we have Clementine, Book 2. Clementine, which is in the Walking Dead universe, written and drawn by Tilly Walden. I loved the first one. Clementine is the character from the Walking Dead video game from Telltale. And this continues her story after those games have completed. First volume was fantastic. I'm looking forward to this one as well. It is a very different take on the zombie story, which it pretty much has to be at this point. And for me, that was it for Image. Joe, what's next?
Up is boom! And of course,
Shakalaka.
On page 106, we have the aforementioned Berserker, Poetry of Madness. A sea of gore and devastation awaits as B, through a fateful chance encounter, safeguards the advanced and ancient realm of Atlantis as its unstoppable protector. But a sickly king serves as a symbol for the rot inside, as the security and bliss created through B's violence is shadow shallow that is. The cracks created by a secret cult might spell a monstrous end for the legendary city, one beyond even B's ability to save. And again, Keanu Reeves joins acclaimed writer and artist Steve, how you say that? Scrose. And this is a one-shot of special that fans of Lovecraftian horror would be mad to miss. The fun part about it, or annoying part about it, is look on page 106 and it'll give you all the different variant covers that you can get if you can afford it, including some David Mack ones, which look really cool. And you can page through the next couple pages and get an idea of some of the art.
That variant cover on page 107 by David Aja. Oh, I love David Aja's stuff.
Know.
His stuff is just, it's so unique and so cool. Let's see. I don't think I had anything from Boom.
I've got to
double check.
While you're double checking, I'll point out these are.
I did. Oh. I had on page 125.
Oh, I have that down as well. Well, holy cow! Three books we're both agreeing on.
This is by Mark Waid, Peter Krause. This is part of the superhero thing he did. The Unforgivable, the Irredeemable. This is Insufferable. What happens when your crime-fighting sidekick grows up to be an arrogant egomaniac? Worse, what on earth could force the two of you together on one last case? Nocturnus and his former protege Galahad will find out if they don't kill us first. If they don't kill each other first. They finally return to a city under siege by an army of supervillains. Only Nocturnus and Galahad can save the life of millions. However, they have no resources, no weapons, and nothing but one another to depend on. This collects the 3 miniseries in one big book. And Mark Waid is one of those guys, again, I buy his stuff automatically. He's always got a good take on superheroes, and he's always doing something unique and fresh. So I'm very excited about finally getting to read this. Joe?
The only other 2 things I'm going to point out on page 114, if you're a Power Ranger fan, there's a new Power Ranger book starting, Power Rangers Unlimited Hyperforce. And then on page 131, if you're a fan
I have this too.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Slaughterhouse 5, the original graphic novel, written by some Kurt Vonnegut, whatever. But Ryan North, Albert Montrese illustrates it. It's the first ever critically acclaimed graphic novel of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5. It's now available in softcover, which means I would assume hardcover earlier. I don't recall. So it's centering on the infamous firebombing of Dresden. Billy Pilgrim's Odyssey through the time reflects the mythic journey of our own fractured lives as we search for meaning in what we fear most. Billy Pilgrim's Journey is at once a farcical look at the horror and tragedy of war, where children are placed on the front lines and die, so it goes, and a moving examination of what it means to be fallibly human. So, what are we talking? This is not coming out till September, but it's an advanced solicit, so let your comic shops know if you want it. And that's it for me.
That's it for me too. Next up is...
I'm just keeping score here. We got four books you and I agree on.
And now it's time for Dynamite.
Dynamite.
I am buying something, which is kind of rare for me. I don't usually buy stuff from Dynamite, but they have an omnibus I want.
On page 146.
That's right. The Adventures of Red Sonja omnibus hardcover. This is all of the Marvel Red Sonja stories from Marvel Feature 1 through 7, Red Sonja issues 1 through 15, and her appearances from Savage Sword of Conan in one book. Presented with fully remastered color pages. This timeless tome also features a beautiful cover by Frank Thorne. I don't know if this has ever been collected all in one book before. And it's just so weird to me that Red Sonja is not packaged in with the Conan stuff. And that Red Sonja was created by Roy Thomas and he doesn't have any say in it anymore. But okay. I'm picking this up.
Yeah, this is a good one. On way back on page 136 again is that new Red Sonja #1 starting up. Oh my God, I'm not even going to try to count the number of covers because they lay them down A to Z, and it goes A to ZK. And I'm just looking, and that doesn't even include the different premium metal limited virgin covers. That big one apparently is Kevin Eastman's doing a cover. They do show a lot of the covers, which is kind of cool. There's an autograph with, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try. Torun Kronbeck. Sorry if I slaughtered your name. Interview there. And then, of course, if that's not enough Red Sonja goodiness, you start on page 148. There's a 50th anniversary poster book. Page 149, Invincible Red Sonja hardcover. Following page has all the different coins, one-of-a-kind collectibles, including a set. And if you've got the door, you can get a Red Sonja 50th anniversary door poster by Joseph Michael Linsner. And if that ain't all, go to page 152, 153. There's some Red Sonja 50th anniversary trading cards you can get. And there's art from Who's Who, Frank Thorne, Amanda Connor, Howard Chaykin, Frank Cho, the aforementioned Lisner, Peach Momoko, just a ton of people there. So just a fun way of breaking out. This is basically a grand slam almost for Dynamite in terms of Red Sonja stuff. But wait, there's more. On page 156, a new Gargoyles miniseries, if you're into the Disney Gargoyles. Gargoyles Dark Ages, again with variant covers shown. And on page 160, franchise creator Greg Weisman and artist Drew Moss do a quick interview. And I just take a quick look to see what I like about, I've got a thing going for signed covers. I'm looking for the Atlas version where they actually have it autographed, but I don't. Come on, Dynamite, step up. I want some Atlas. On page 166, a new Darkwing miniseries. I'm sorry, I was going to mention Darkwing Duck. It's a preview of a new super team, the Justice Ducks. Why do I point this out? Well, first of all, there's some pretty cool variant covers pending licensor approval, aka Disney. But anytime you get a first appearance weird like that, you never know when it's going to go crazy in values. And I got to say, our track record's pretty good in terms of pointing out, hey, this is a first appearance of somebody, and then 5 months later, oh my God, it's an $80 back issue. Will it work here? Can Darkwing Duck subdue his ego long enough to work with a super team? Spoiler, probably not. On page 170, if you got a friend who's a big Gargoyle fan, here you go, Gargoyles Here in Manhattan collection. This is collecting 1 through 6. And let's see, we got a trade paperback, a hardcover, and a signed Greg Weisman signed edition for only $39.99, which is actually pretty good for a signed book. And if you have friends who like Paw Patrol, Dynamite's got you covered on page 172. Ready for a rescue. Make your own Paw Patrol vehicles. And it looks entirely too messy for me, but I just want to point this out again. No interest in Paw Patrol, but if you got a kid or a cousin or a niece, nephew, or a cool neighbor that is, pick it up. And I'm just going to flip the page. I think that's it for Dynamite.
I have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hog all the action. What you got?
Go to page 149.
Dun, dun, dun.
Invincible Red Sonja hardcover. This was the series written by Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. This is the 10-issue miniseries drawn by Moritat, written by Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. Magicians, giants, betrayal, armies, strange creatures, and one very hot volcano. This one's got it all. 360 pages, $34.99 for a hardcover. That is just a beautiful looking book.
I've got the issues because I picked up all the Frank Cho covers.
Cho.
We like Cho.
We like his money when he's losing at poker even more.
Money.
Anytime I think of Frank Cho, I think about how he paid for a whole bunch of my comics at the convention he was at. And should we do DC now?
We can. Now, in this case, grab your DC Connect, issue number 36 for May 2023. And I'll start you out right away on page 2. Night Terrors start here. I haven't decided if I'm going to buy this or wait for the trades or wait for the omnibus, but it sounds interesting. When Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman find the body of one of their earliest enemies inside the Hall of Justice, their investigation takes them past the land of the living, beyond the land of the dead, and directly to a new villain called Insomnia, who uses his powers to engulf every single hero and villain in their own dark and twisted nightmares. The only way to save the world is to call for the help of an unlikely hero, Deadman. The thrills and chills of Night Terrors are brought to the DC Universe by DC architect and superstar writer Joshua Williamson, with horrific art by comics legend Howard Porter. A couple black and whites there, and it ties into a bunch of other books, which is why I am excited as I am. I think I will probably wait for, good grief, everybody gets their own book.
Yeah, it's basically most of the DC books are going to be replaced by this for 2 months. A lot like they did with, God, what was that series they did when?
Done that a couple times, I think.
Yeah, they did it. The one I remember most was when they moved from New York to LA.
Oh, yeah.
They did that.
Convergence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that comic shops ordered a lot because they did a whole bunch of special covers and everything. They had those lenticular covers that had sold well, but boy, for years afterward, you could pick them all up for next to nothing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of comic collectors and buyers, when they do stuff like this, usually see it as, I'll be able to save money because I could skip a couple months. And the first time I remember that happening was when Marvel did their -1 books.
Yeah.
And you had people who, I'm not buying them. Why? Because they're not part of the continuity, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And people see these as either something cool or something to skip. Usually they're not by the regular creative teams in order to let the regular creative teams catch up. For me, it looks like a decent idea. However, I'm buying it as an omnibus when it's done. But Joe, I got to tell you, this really lets the air out of the dawn of DC, in my opinion. Because
too soon.
Yeah, they're building up to, okay, we're reintroducing stuff after the latest crisis. And, we're starting to gain momentum, and then here we go. We're interrupting every comic for a crossover for 2 months. It just seems like a bad idea to me. And if I were a comic shop owner, I would under order on these.
Maybe it would have been a better idea closer to Halloween.
Closer to Halloween or toward the end of summer. I know what they used to do, because sales were higher in the summer. They would start a crossover in August and then have it go through September and October to kind of keep people coming in the shops. But they're still trying to establish what the new DC universe is, in my opinion. So that's what I think.
Yeah. Although there is some other stuff to pick up.
Oh, yeah.
If you skip over the whole Night Terrors thing, on page 16, here's Hawkgirl #1. And it's the Kendra Saunders, the winged warrior, better known as Hawkgirl. She's been one of the DC Universe's greatest heroes for a long time, serving as a member of both the Justice League and the Justice Society. But with the Justice League disbanded, Kendra decides she needs a fresh start and heads to Metropolis to begin a new life. And that life is quickly interrupted by a mysterious villain with powerful connections to the nth metal that makes up Hawkgirl's wings and weapon. So you get brand new adventure starting, and some black and white preview art, different variant covers. That sounds like it'd be kind of fun. Give it a shot.
On page 18, we have World's Finest, Teen Titans #1. It's the first of a 6-issue miniseries by Mark Waid and Emiliana Lapacino, cover by Chris Samney. This is a retelling of the early adventures of the original Teen Titans. That's all I need. That's enough.
Well, on page 20, you got Tales of the Titans, where they're doing a kind of a who are Starfire, Raven, Donna, Troy, and Beast Boy. Where do they come from? What do they stand for? All will be revealed in Tales of the Titans, an all-new series spotlighting issues in the spirit of the beloved 1980s classic Tales of the New Teen Titans. And the first one is alien princess and warrior Starfire, whose huge heart, huger hair, and fiery fists have made her a fan favorite of the team when a spaceship bearing, how do you say that race? Tamaranian?
Yep. Tamaranian.
Markings. Yep. It crash lands on Earth. Starfire goes on a solo mission to uncover its origin. But what awaits her on that journey will bring her back to the earliest days of her youth, to memories of two sisters eternally at war, and perhaps chance to keep history from repeating itself. So there you go. You got two books of Titany goodness.
On page 28, we get a second Harley Quinn Black, White, and Red miniseries. This one is called Black, White, and Redder. It's a 6-issue miniseries. I was not, it was one of those where it was like, okay, big deal. They're flooding the market with, wait a minute, it's drawn by Kevin Maguire. Yeah, I got to buy it. Kevin Maguire, one of my favorite artists, rarely does comics anymore because I've seen his commissions and he never has to draw another comic as long as he lives because his commission list is enormous. He could probably make a living just doing retakes of that the Justice League cover where everybody's standing there looking up at the camera. You got a problem with that? But yeah, it's Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Redder. So it's all in black, white, and red ink, which they've started doing all the time. Comedy legends Chip Zdarsky and Kevin Maguire team up to send Harley and Ivy deep into the heart of the Fortress of Solitude. So there's pages of art. Looks very, very cool. Then on the next page, Mark Waid and Brian Hitch, Superman, The Last Days of Lex Luthor. Holy crap. DC finally bringing out the big guns, Joe. There's some pages of that, too. It's a Black Label book, so there'll be swearing and blood. Oh, yep. Really excited about that one, too. Joe?
I'm on page 38. Speaking of web strips, there's Batman Wayne Family Adventures Volume 1. It's a DC's massively popular webtoon stories in print for the first time. So Batman has his hands full. Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, Orphan, Spoiler, and a few Robins. There's no shortage of children. Adopted, fostered, biological. Yep, Bruce Wayne's got to manage them all. And now with a new vigilante, Duke Thomas, a.k.a. The Signal, joining the family, Wayne Manor has just gotten even more crowded. Join us for these wacky, heartwarming adventures and learn the meaning of the word family. It's the first 25 episodes of the Webtoon Eisner-nominated series, optimized for a brand new reading experience in print. So it's, in other words, that's all new to me.
On pages 36 and 37, we're getting some DC manga being reprinted here in the U.S. It's from, let's see, who is the original publisher was Kodansha. So these are being reprinted here in the U.S. A Joker book, a Superman book, and a Batman book. I'm going to take a look at these. I'm really interested in them. But I know some of the Marvel manga has been great, and some of it has been kind of mediocre. So I want to take a look at these before I buy them, but I am interested. Joe?
Let's see, what do I got next? Page 51. And I wasn't even ready because I was looking at something else. Page 51. I'm in the trade the collected editions. You have anything non-collected before we dive in?
Well, I'm in collected editions before that.
Oh, okay.
Such as on page 41, Gotham City Year One, another Tom King book, this one drawn by Phil Hester. There was once a shining city on the water, a home for families, hope, and prosperity. It was Gotham, and it was glorious. The story of its fall from grace, the legend that would birth the Bat, has remained untold for 80 years. That is about to change. This is the definitive origin of Gotham City, how it became the cesspool of violence and corruption it is today, how it harbored and then unleashed the sin that led to the rise of the Dark Knight. 2 generations before Batman, private investigator Slam Bradley gets tangled in the kidnapping of the century as the infant Wayne heir disappears in the night, and so begins a brutal, hard-boiled, epic tale of a man living on the edge and the city about to burn. So what was yours, Joe?
I may be going for the Batman Golden Age Omnibus, the 2023 edition. This was offered again because I got the Batman in, they did I don't know, I think they're upstairs. They did it in one format earlier, which was pretty nice, but I think it'd be fun to have it in the Omnibus because
I have them in the DC archives.
Yeah, I don't have any DC archives anymore. I got rid of most of them except for like Supergirl and Shazam. So for me, yeah, I definitely need to get a hold of these because they're fun to read.
I really wish that they would do Batman Bronze Age, because they did Justice League Bronze Age, and those are sold out and selling for $500 each, which is craziness. But the Batman Bronze Age, most of that stuff's never been reprinted unless it's drawn by Neil Adams. And there was a ton of stuff that wasn't by Neil Adams that was good. DC, come on. The Batman Silver Age stuff, you're reprinting too much of the goofy Batman. We want the serious Dark Knight Detective. After the TV show was canceled, when they went, oh crap, we better make Batman serious again. People, I swear to God.
Well, you could go right to page 55, pick up the Batman Adventures Omnibus.
That one I'm excited about.
Oh yeah, this is tied into the Batman animated series that debuted in 1992. And so if you liked that style Batman, this is the giant omnibus for you because this does the entire comic run of the Batman Adventures 1 through 36 and the annuals and the Batman Adventures holiday special, a story from Batman Black and White 1, Batman Adventures Mad Love #1, and for the first time ever, the never before reprinted comic book adaptation of the animated feature film Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which, if Cory remembers, what gave away the surprise of the movie?
The toy.
Yeah, they had the Phantasm unmasked so you could see right away who it was. That was some good thinking there, Kenner.
I remember at the time that book was my favorite Batman comic. And there were a lot of people who, what do you mean? What do you mean? Because it wasn't Batman getting his back broken and being replaced for a year and all that. No, these were just good old-fashioned Batman stories. And while they were, while it was based on a cartoon, you cannot say that the Batman Adventures cartoon was just a kid's show. It was not. It was a well-done animated series that you can still go back and watch as a grown-up and enjoy. It's that well done. And that was it for me for DC.
And of course, if you were listening to this here podcast, you'd look at page 54 and go, oh, Cory already told me to order the Spy versus Spy Omnibus.
Yeah, it was in the order form last month.
Yeah, I ordered it.
Which is weird that they now have it in the DC previews, but I guess they did an advanced solicitation and now it's being solicited regularly. This is every Spy versus Spy, not just the ones by Proteus, but also the ones by Peter Cooper, who took over the strip after Proteus died.
Is that the one where the female spy outdid the original Spy versus Spy?
No, Proteus introduced the woman spy in the 60s.
Okay, I just remember Spy versus Spy versus Spy.
Yep, that was in the 60s.
Okay.
Because he started to mix it up a little bit. And too many stories about him and Sergio whenever they were at the Mad offices together. They would just, sit and talk for hours about cartooning, and nobody else in the offices would know what the hell they were talking about.
All right.
Now it's time for Marvel.
Marvelous. So reach over, grab your Marvel number 20, May for July 23. And I gotta admit, there's not. Well, we'll get into it here. I guess there's a lot of stuff I'm buying from Marvel, but not a lot that new stuff. So if we give Marvel a short shrift, it's not because I'm not buying a lot of Marvel. The first one, of course, is Fallen Friend number 1, which will be revealed about 2 weeks after this podcast breaks. So, but
on 5/31 of 2023,
yep.
We will find out who died in Spider-Man.
I know we're not going to say nothing here because we talked about it, and I think that when we were on our free comic book day, Butch, Cory, and I were all talking about this, and I think we figured out who it is. But we'll leave it blank because we'll find out by the time the next previews rolls around. So I'll jump right over to page 9, Marvel Age 1000. It's a celebration of the Marvel Age of Comics, and you are invited. It's a who's who of creators. Go read it because I'm not going to spend time doing it. All right, Michael J. Straczynski, Dan Slott, Jason Aaron, Mark Waid, Steve McGiven, Michael Allred, and more, with variant covers galore. Plus the ultimate Marvel value stamp, 1000. Who or what will it feature? It's a one-shot, so you won't have to go crazy with it, but it looks to be a lot of fun with tons of variant covers to choose from, including Frank Miller.
The thing I find most interesting, Marvel Age was hey, here's what's coming out for Marvel in 2 months, and here's a bunch of articles to promote it. They even did an omnibus of Marvel Age, which baffles me. But hey, if somebody wants it, go ahead. But what is Marvel Age 1000? What it should be is, here's what's coming out next month. No, it's a bunch of comic stories.
Yep.
How dare they? We also get some reprinted facsimile editions, Joe.
Yes. I think
they're
we're on
reprinting
page 12.
Facsimile edition.
Yeah. And all I can say, the two I'm interested in, I don't know if I picked up X-Men 101 when it was done before. Actually, I think that's an original one.
That's a new one.
Okay.
It's Hulk 180 and Hulk 181 are being reprinted again.
And I got to tell you, the other facsimiles are going for silly money. These may end up being, if they do the right ones, like the omnibus editions, where if they don't, they sell out and they see the value go up, they say, well, okay, there's demand for it. Let's do 180, 181 again. So here's your chance. You've been warned. We don't want to talk to you when we get to episode 700 and say, hey, remember way back then in 603 when we told you to pick this up and it's now a $200 variant? You had your chance.
They're also doing a facsimile edition of All New Marvel Now .1, which came out in, I think, 2014.
I think I have that page. Isn't that page 48?
No, page.
I have that wrong.
I'm looking at the digital, so I don't get page numbers.
Okay.
In the digital, it's page 18.
Yeah, it's page 14 in the actual book.
Okay.
I thought you picked up the book.
Yeah, and I left it in your truck.
Oh, that was brilliant.
It happens.
Can't blame that one on me.
Well, I could, but I won't.
I'm not going to take the blame. All right, so there you go. You got 4 facsimile editions to buy. So
we have another Captain Marvel miniseries. Captain Marvel meeting the original Ms. Marvel. Captain Marvel Dark Tempest. Why am I pointing it out? Because normally I buy these as trade paperbacks, because it's written by Ann Nesenti. And it's the original Captain Marvel, who's always fun. We also get a Marvel Zero on page 28 or 29, a deluxe edition collecting Marvel's gold free comic book day titles. So if you did not get them on free comic book day, you can buy it for what, $6.99?
Page 28 in the actual book.
Okay.
And then if you go forward, they're coming back to some what ifs. And one of them has me extremely interested in. On page 30, what if Dark Spider-Gwen #1, where Gary Conway returns to his most famous Spider story for this what if, along with co-writer Jody Houser, artist Raymond Box. What if Gwen Stacy didn't die on the bridge that day, but Spider-Man did? Enough said, I suppose.
Yeah. And then I am flipping back to the trade paperbacks because most everything else is ongoing series.
Let's see if I got anything else here. If you go forward a page 32, they're revisiting X-Men Days of Future Past, Doomsday, a 4-issue miniseries. That actually caught my attention. Your invite to the X-Men Hellfire Gala 2023 #1 is on page 34. That starts the fall of the X-Men, which we've been hearing about forever. And I was very, very disappointed with X-Men #24. I got all excited. Pog, you're Pog for hire. No, it's, I thought Pog, like, the little round milk caps that are making a comeback. No, Pog is apparently a fan favorite from X of Swords. Pog, you're Pog. That's 2 G's. Very, very, very disappointed in that one. So, and now lead us off, Cory, what we got going on in the collected editions.
Well, even though the Blade movie has stopped shooting because of the writer's strike, they are still going to put out Blade the Early Years Omnibus, which reprints all of his appearances from Tomb of Dracula. Let's see, it's from Tomb of Dracula, Marvel Previews, Fear, Doctor Strange, Marvel Preview, Marvel Comics Presents, and Vampire Tales. Basically all of the Blade stuff before his series in the 90s. So I'm kind of wishy-washy on this because I don't like these that just reprint the characters' appearances. Because in a lot of cases, it's if the character's not in the third part of a 3-part story, they don't reprint that. So you get part of a story. So this is when I have to do a little research before I buy. And then there's another one I'm iffy on. I want to get it, but it's going to depend on my budget. Marvel Universe by Arthur Adams Omnibus.
Yes.
This reprints all of the Arthur Adams comics, which, if you look it over, there aren't that many. The Long Shot miniseries, the New Mutants Special Edition and X-Men Annual, the Cloak and Dagger stuff he did, the X-Factor issues he did, the Excalibur one-shot he did, the new Fantastic Four, Web of Spider-Man Annual, X-Men Annual, the solo issue of Fantastic Four, and the Marvel Holiday Special, just the story he did. 602 pages for $125. I'm iffy on it because, boy, that's not a lot for $125. I love Arthur Adams' art, but that's not a very big omnibus.
Cory likes his omnibuses big and thick.
Well, if I'm going to... Okay, here's the next one, which is almost double the size. Thunderbolts Uncaged Omnibus, which is the Thunderbolt series that came about from... Oh, what was that called? When the bad guys took over the Marvel Universe. Whatever that was.
Acts of Vengeance?
No, this was the one after the Secret Invasion.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think I.
But this reprints that entire run with Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers, and Enter the Heroic Age. 1,160 pages for $125. I like this run. It was written by Jeff Parker, drawn by Kev Walker, Declan Shavney, Matthew Southworth, Neil Edwards, and more, with covers by Greg Land and Mark Bagley. Hot artist, Mark Bagley. Incredible Hulk, Volume 2. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, this is a reprint. No, they've never done this. This is a all-new omnibus, Incredible Hulk Volume 2, which reprints the Incredible Hulk 103 to 134 and annual number 1. This was after the Hulk got his own comic after being in Tales to Astonish for ages and ages and ages. So you got a few Stan Lee stories, some Roy Thomas, but mostly Gary Friedrich and Herb Trimpe art. They are reprinting the Hawkeye with Faction and Aja Omnibus. This is one that if you don't have it, you better buy it because it's goddamn awesome.
I don't remember if I have it. I have it listed down, but I'll have to go look on my omnibus shelf.
The next omnibus is Star Wars Legends, The Rebellion. This is another omnibus of the Dark Horse stuff, which I already have in the Dark Horse omnibuses they put out before they lost the license. And then for Marvel Masterworks, they have a lot of optimism here, Joe, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Omega the Unknown Volume 1. This reprints the 10-issue series Omega the Unknown, as well as the really unsatisfying conclusion in the Defenders, which we talked about at Burger King.
Oh, yeah.
The reason that they wrapped it up in the Defenders was at the end of Omega the Unknown, Steve Gerber, who at the time was writing the Defenders, said the story of Omega the Unknown will be concluded in the Defenders. And then he got fired from the Defenders because Gary Conway wanted to write it. And they kept getting letters. When are you going to end the story of Omega the Unknown? When are you going to end the story of Omega the Unknown? And the regular writer, David Kraft, wanted no part of that. Partly because he was friends with Gerber, and partly because he was like, yeah, there's no way I could give a good conclusion to that. And Stephen Grant, no, not Moon Knight, the real Stephen Grant, was around the office looking for work, and they pitched him, and he said, okay, fine, because he was looking for work. And even he says the story is awful and is a bad conclusion, but it's a conclusion nonetheless. And just so you know, you will never get the conclusion. Mary Screens and Steve Gerber had an agreement that they would never tell anyone the secret of the series unless Marvel hired them to both write the conclusion. And since Steve is no longer with us, Mary has no interest in writing it or telling people the conclusion because she feels it would be a betrayal of her friendship with Steve Gerber.
As opposed to all the idiots who paid cash to buy the damn series.
It's part of that creators' rights thing.
Yeah, that's whatever.
The other Marvel masterwork is Werewolf by Night. Now, Joe, remember how you said that you were... Nope, that's Dark Genesis. I thought, oh, Dark Web's out. No, it's Dark Genesis with the Spider-Man 2099 story.
Yeah.
There is a collection of Elektra, Black, White, and Blood. It's trade paperback. Wait for the Treasury edition. Those books are much better as Treasury editions. And then what do we have for Epic Collections? A lot of reprints. So I'm going to go through them fast. Epic Collection, Avengers, this Beachhead Earth. It has Black Panther on the cover because Black Panther is really popular now, but this is the Kree Skrull War. Then Avengers Epic Collection, The Gathering. Yeah, Avengers The Gathering. X Factor Epic Collection, this is a new one, Judgment War, which reprints that crossover, which was by Louise Simonson, John Byrne, Chris Claremont, drawn by Walt Simonson, Rob Liefeld, and Arthur Adams. Fantastic Four Epic Collection, The Crusader Syndrome. This was when I started buying the Fantastic Four, because this reprints Fantastic Four 147. No, 140. It's so small I can't read it. But this is when George Perez took over. And the cover is, of course, from the Thing Hulk fight, which was awesome. Then we are getting Modern Era Epic Collections show. So if you don't want to pay the big bucks for the omnibus, New Avengers Modern Era Epic Collection. Volume 1, which is the start of the Brian Michael Bendis story. There is a Venom Era Epic Collection, which is Volume 4 in the Venom series. There is a Loki Modern Era Epic Collection, which reprints the Journey into Mystery, New Mutants, Mighty Thor story that gave us young Loki. There is also the Journey into Mystery, which is Volume 1, reprinting the modern appearances of Loki since they revamped him. I think you talked about the Avengers Kang Dynasty trade paperback a while back. That is getting a new printing.
Ooh, maybe I'll get that and sell my first printing.
And then I believe, the only other book is the Ironheart, the Saga of Riri Williams, is getting it's not really an omnibus, but it's not really a epic collection, but it's got as many pages and costs as much. And that's because Riri Williams is going to be showing up in the Captain Marvel movie. So here's a trade paperback of her. And then the last thing to point out, the smaller Marvel Masterworks is up to Incredible Hulk #3, Less Than Monster, More Than Man, which reprints a whole bunch of stuff from Tales to Astonish. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Marvel. And now, the rest of the story.
The first one, and I think we've already talked about it for me, page 208 in Titan, Conan the Barbarian #1 ongoing. Jim Zub, Robert D. La Torre, Jose Villarrubia. Years after Battle of Venarium, a weary Conan returns to his homeland to seek rest and solitude. However, a mysterious scout rides in to warn the Cimmerians of an imminent threat. On the march from the Pictish wilderness, will Conan and his new ally be able to hold off this new horde of invaders? Your journey into darkness begins here. Some very small preview art, a number of variant covers to choose from. Cory, if you had a chance, well, you do, which one would you pick?
Mike Mignola, by far.
All right, let me see where it is. Oh, wow. I'm torn between cover D, the patch, Searcher, the retro theme variant. And then there is the cover G, which is a wraparound Hyborian Age map cardstock. A little bit more expensive, which I just always find it fascinating to look at the maps. So that's it for me. Titan-wise, anything else?
Really, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Turn to page 212.
Okay.
Doctor Who, Once Upon a Time Lord. This is the Doctor Who comic that Dan Slott wrote.
But I bought it. Or wait, is this original?
You didn't.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
Original. See, that's why I like listening too. Okay, talk while I write. Yeah, how do you spell Titan?
This is very much, they're just saying, hey, it's a new Doctor Who comic, covered by Adam Hughes, written by Dan Slott, drawn by Christopher Jones, former Minneapolis guy, and a damn handsome man. Martha Jones has been captured by the insatiable pyromeths. Her only hope for survival is to distract them with sensational untold tales of the 10th Doctor facing off against his greatest foes, both classic and new. This is a original graphic novel, 64 pages for $17.99. Then on the next page is Doctor Who Doomsday, which is going to be a big multimedia crossover. They don't talk about it a lot here. It's going to be a comic. It's going to be a there will be a novel, there will be some sort of online thing, and there will be an audio adventure. So this is plotted by Russell T. Davies. He's basically the guy who said, here's the story. And then Jody Hauser and Roberta Ingranatia is going to be drawing it. This lonely assassin from the 51st century is hunting for her survival. There's only one person who can save her, the doctor. Using her vortex manipulator, she'll do anything to find the tempestuous time traveler, including cavorting with the maleficent Missy. Every hour, a new adventure. Every hour closer to death. And then on page 215, we get, well, on 214, we get it's the second issue of the Gun Honey story from Hard Case Crime. But that's not what I'm pointing at. I'm pointing at Ms. Tree Heroine Withdrawal, which continues the reprints of the Ms. Tree stuff. This is the reprinting the stuff while it was still with Renegade Press. Ms. Tree, one of my favorite comics of all time by Max Collins and Terry Beatty. This is the comic that got me hooked on crime stories. Before this, I'd never really read any crime stuff, but I picked up Ms. Tree because it looked interesting. And in the back, Max Collins would write these essays about crime fiction. And I picked up his books, then I'd pick up the books he recommended. Then I became a huge crime fiction fan. So there you go. That is my stuff from Titan Books.
Woohoo!
And
all right. Let's see. What do I have next? I'm on page 239 from Opus. Gene Simmons, Dominatrix #1. From the mind of legendary Gene Simmons, the guy in Kiss, in case you weren't sure about it. This is an action epic flavored with fetish fantasy. Dominique Stern is used to making people hurt, but they always ask for it first. When one of her sessions is interrupted by mysterious agents who seem to have hyper strength, Dom's narrow escape leads her down the rabbit hole of global conspiracy. There's a not pictured movie poster homage and a Joseph Linsner cover as well. Jim Valiant of Catwoman and Tarot of the Black Witch, I believe, is doing it. It's funny because I'm trying to collect the original run, which I believe was done by, oh my gosh, it was a long time ago. And it's basically kind of like if Catwoman wore a dominatrix outfit type thing. That's what I recall of it. Although now that he's back, we'll see what he comes up with this. And it doesn't say how many issues this is, but it's hard to tell with Opus. Sometimes they're one shot, sometimes they go beyond, but it's always things tied into different properties, rock bands, things like that. What do you got for us, Cory?
Well, Dark Horse is now closer to the beginning of the book. What a mess, man. Yeah. I got to admit, Dark Horse.
They change it every month, don't they?
Yeah. So Dark Horse, starting on page 246, we've got BRPD Omnibus Volume 7. This is the side series to Hellboy. I love their omnibuses. Then on page 247, Creepy Archives Volume 3 trade paperback. Sadly, the price has gone up to $24.99, but it's still very worth it. These are the early 60s ones that were edited and mostly written by Archie Goodwin. You've got Frank Frazetta doing interior art in this book. This reprints Creepy issues 1 through 15. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Go out of your way to pick it up. Then, also on that page, for $19.99, EC Archives Crime Suspense Stories. Trade paperback, $20 for the first 6 issues. Crime Suspense Stories had the had the EC twist endings, had the same artists who did the other EC books. Once again, just EC had the killer lineup of artists. doing the best work of their career because editor Al Feldstein and publisher William Gaines said, no, we don't have a house style. Draw in your style. And that's why it worked so well. These stories are from the 50s, which means they're 70 years old and they're still fresh and exciting. The tad overwritten, the prose is a little pulpy and purple, but that's kind of what adds to the feeling of these comics. There's a reason they have stayed in print since the 80s. Since there's been a direct market, EC comics have remained in print. And I just realized that when we were up at Granite City, when it was, wow, ever since they did those EC, the EC archives, the great big box sets, these books have stayed in print. They've been reprinted over and over and over. There's a reason for that. They're that damn good. The last Dark Horse thing I want to point out is not something that I'm buying, but if you are one of the people who likes big collectible books, Monster Size Hellboy by Mike Mignola. This reprints Hellboy Omnibus Volumes 1 through 4, 1,512 pages for $149.99. This is larger than a regular comic. It's 8 by 12. And the reason I point this out is that Monster Size Conan, the other Monster Size book they did, came out toward the end of their run on Conan. They did not reprint it because they couldn't. That thing is going for $600 to $1,000. So if you're looking to invest in something, I believe this is a good investment.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't
Dark
give
Horse,
investment advice much, but when I do, I'm pretty sure of it.
for me with Dark Horse, there's only a couple things on page 246. They are soliciting for Breathers trade paperback. Canceled the previous order. I've read a few of the one-shots on this. It's actually kind of interesting, creepy. Is what happens when our planet can no longer sustain us. Humanity clings to life in this thoughtful dystopia where a single breath of fresh air can kill. With that premise, you follow the lives of a small cast of survivors as they struggle to keep going in a world where air carries a fatal virus. This has the full 9-issue series, the bonus issue number 0, all collected, with an afterword by the creator and an extensive cover gallery. And on the following page, 246, the next Gru miniseries, Gru in the Wild, Gru the Wanderer's Back, and Stupider Than Ever, which it's pretty stupid. In this, his latest miniseries, he tries to figure out the dumb ways human beings attempt to coexist with animals on this planet. And if we can't figure out how to do that, what chance does the guy with the cheese dip for brains have? And let me just double check.
Cheese dip.
Oh, I know, and we're only halfway through that. We got to get through this because now I'm getting hungry. Thanks a lot, Mark. Thanks a lot, Sergio. What do you got next?
I really don't have anything next from Dark Horse.
Okay.
Next up is IDW. There's nothing I'm picking up, but I do want to point something out. Remember how I said that one of the problems IDW has is that they flood the market when they get a license?
Mm-hmm.
6 Star Trek books this month.
Yeah, I'm kind of, it's a crossover, which is happening. And what I find interesting is that they actually get press from the Star Trek.com or whatever it is, Trek.com or whatever. But they're doing a crossover, Star Trek Defiant, and it's Star Trek Day of the Blood. I think I'm tapping out. I don't think I'm going to pick up on the crossovers because they're expensive, and if they're going to do a trade on it, I'll pick up the trade. Speaking of, like you said, let's if one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book is good, let's do a dozen. The one I want to point out is a weird crossover, which could work. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Stranger Things #1. Yeah, it's the gang from Stranger Things. Look forward to a non-threatening, fun-filled trip to New York City. With the gang hundreds of miles from Hawkins, they're sure to catch a break this time. That is, until they encounter a threat both bizarre and familiar, and some allies that are just bizarre. So the kids from Hawkins meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I draw back to Gene Wilder from Young Frankenstein. It could work. And right below it's an interesting original graphic novel, True Cult, TRVEKVLT. Barry Trantanella has been flipping burgers for 15 years. He has no kids, no hobbies, no love interests, and essentially no life. But what he does have is a plan to change everything. Years of watching the daily rhythms of the neighboring stores have given Marty the idea for a perfect heist. But when he accidentally steals a supernatural weapon from a cult full of violent lunatics, the resulting satanic panic will be way above his minimum wage pay grade. Strip mall heist, a satanic cult, and a lousy shift at minimum wage job. Grab a number 2 with fries and settle in for a hilarious thrill ride. So that caught my attention from IDW. And I think that's it.
If you go to page 270, Betty and Veronica, Friends Forever, Beach Party OS, which is a regular comic. Why am I pointing this out? Because this introduces a new character, Casey. So there are some hints that a surprise guest will make an appearance. So when a handsome young stranger shows up, everyone wants to know who he is. All that plus more fun in the sun, stories, and fabulous summer fashions. It is drawn by Holly Golightly, who is, that's not her real name, but she's married to Jim Ballant, who does Tarot, the Black Rose, and has done a lot of Archie stuff in the past. Why am I pointing out a new character? Because the last time they introduced a new character, Kevin Kelly, those issues now go for enormous amounts of money. So the reason I'm pointing this out is, hey, if you're an investment type person, you may want to pick this up. And if you look at the cover, it is not it's not the Archie House style. It's very much the Holly Golightly style, which is a more modern version of the Archie style. I was very surprised that there are no Archie horror comics. Well, we had an Archie horror comic for Free Comic Book Day, and all of the Archie stuff is on one page. So, Joe?
Let's see, back on page 261. Ahoy Comics.
Ahoy, hoy.
And on number 1. Let's see, it's Paul Ryder Cornell from Doctor Who, artist Akira Sesta from Captain Carter. Follow an ensemble cast of media pros and fans down through the decades of America's most colossal comic book convention. Meet Eddie and Deja inspiring comics talents whose ambitions threatens to tear their friendships apart. There's Anthony, Dom, and Finn's brilliant, boozy, bombastic British creator, and all the crusty editors, forgotten TV stars, enthusiastic fans who make the convention experience memorable year after year. This book kicks off the 5th anniversary of Ahoy Comics, featuring the company's usual assortment of extra prose, stories, and illustrations. 5-issue series starting on, get it? Con it on. Ahoy, hoy. Cory.
If you go to page 304, Clover Press is reprinting the complete Dick Tracy, starting with volume 1. They do volumes 1 and 2. These are the Library of American Comics was at IDW. They specialize in reprinting comic strips in the best format possible. The first volume of Dick Tracy reprints 1931 to 1933. The second one is the 1933 to 1935. If you did not get these the first time, now's the time to get them. I did not pick up Dick Tracy because I was not a fan, but I understand and realize the importance of the strip. And if the Library of American Comics is moving over to Clover Press, I hope that means that we're going to get them reprinting some of the stuff that we missed and starting with some new ones, because there were a lot of books that they were going to print but never did because of IDW's money woes. Joe?
Let's see. Let's go to page 280. Way ahead of myself. So I'm trying to keep caught up. AWA, the Ribbon Queen #1. There is something ancient and terrible loose in the world of men. New York Police Detective Amy Sun has a problem. 3 years ago, a young woman was rescued from serial killer by police tactical unit. Now she's dead, and Amy has a bad feeling that one of the SWAT team leaders is responsible. As she investigates the corrupt cabal within her own precinct, Detective Sun soon discovers that there is something else on their trail, a force of vengeance older than the human race itself. It's awoken and is out for blood of the guilty, who will soon find themselves suffering a fate more gruesome than anything they could have dreamed. The Ribbon Queen has come to New York City. Amy is not at all certain that it should be stopped. Why do I recommend this? Well, just a pencil by J. Dean Burroughs and some guy, Garth Ennis.
No,
Never last.
never last.
Now, what's nice about AWA is that they're doing what they call the AWA Advantage, where the retailers can get as many copies as they want and is fully returnable. And there's a number of different variant covers. So I do remember when I had Hot Comics, kind of a mini Tales of the Shop, they used to do that where you could get the many as you want, and you get the variant covers, but if you returned any, you had to return the variant covers. And they found out that, you know what? It didn't happen. So anyways, they cut that out real fast. Not AWA. I don't remember who it was. Probably Marvel or DC. They're the only ones doing it back when I had it. So, but this sounds interesting. Garthen has caught my attention. AWA usually does trade paperbacks. So if you're not prone to want to pick up the 8-issue miniseries, just wait. This is a horror crime thing, so it'll be around. Cory?
I'm pointing this out, although I'm not buying it, and that is Fair Square, which is a brand new publisher, is starting a new superhero universe, Beyondtopia Legends. It is a 184-page graphic novel at $29.99. This is an anthology based on Indonesian legends and myth. Most of the creators are Latino or from Indonesia. It's another superhero universe. I don't think there's been a superhero universe that has been successful. But here's another one. But I think this one, because it's kind of an international book, may not need to rely on American sales so much. This is another one that when I pick it, when it comes out, I want to take a look at it. Because the cover looks interesting, the idea looks interesting, but there are no sample pages. I don't know any of the creators, so I'm going to wait, and when we do one of our hidden shops along the way, if it jumps out at me, I'll pick it up. And that is on page 318. Joe?
All right, let's see. Back on page 291. And let's see, I got to back up a bit. This is out of Blood Moon Comics. Talks, #1. We're in a dystopian wasteland where humanity has long since been sterilized by radiation. When a woman miraculously becomes pregnant and must find a way to stay alive as multiple groups vie for control of her and her unborn child's future. A couple different variant covers to choose from. I can't tell if it's a mini series, probably an ongoing. But again, page 291, you can check it out, see if it's your cup of tea. I'm going to pick one up. Let's see, what did I figured I'm going to get the Asalandro Maruso cover, because you got 4 to choose from. So in case my variant cover choice means anything. Cory?
If you go to page 326, there is another adaptation of a book. This one is an adaptation of David Simon's Homicide, which was a novel called Homicide: Life on the Street. This was turned into the TV series Homicide: Life on the Street at NBC. And then the creator of it, David Simon, went on to create Oz, The Corner, The Wire, and other fantastic TV series. This novel is one of my favorite novels ever written. And I'll be interested to see, they're doing the novel in 2 parts. So what it is, in 1988, journalist David Simon was given unprecedented access to the Baltimore Police Department's homicide unit. Over the next 12 months, he shadowed detectives as they took on a slew of killings in a city where killings were common. Only the most heinous cases stood out. Chief among them, the rape and murder of 11-year-old LaToya Wallace. Originally published in 1991, Simon's homicide became the basis for the acclaimed television series Homicide: Life on the Streets and inspired HBO's The Wire. Now this true crime classic is reimagined as a gritty 2-part graphic novel series. This is not an easy book. Homicide: The Life on the Street was not an easy book to read, but was an important book to read to understand what the police do trying to solve homicides without all of the cop show crap. It's very much showing how they have to work through things methodically, working within the system, and the toll it takes on the detectives involved. Joe?
Well, geez, that's pretty heavy. I was going to recommend right below it on page 236, Snot Goblins and Other Tasteless Tales. I know you got. I mean, if I had a
whiplash, we're giving the listeners whiplash
all over this. I mean, the middle grade graphic novel anthology tells funny and scary stories with a generous helping of gross out humor, mucus monster, rock and roll trolls, all powerful rotting cat mummies. What would you do if your boogers tried to take over the world? What if teenage girls' ghosts unleashed an army of pooping cockroaches on you? You've got a front row seat to see kids and trolls and vampires, just like you, taking on the grossest challenges in the world. So hold your nose, grab your stomach, and get ready for the world's most repulsive storyteller, trademark, by the way, to send 5 tales of disgustingly hilarious horror right into your eye holes. You won't know whether to split your lids laughing, hurl chunks, or both. And you have a choice between a soft cover and a hard cover. So, hey, I tell you, I don't. My nieces and nephews aren't old enough, but boy, I'd be buying this for them for Christmas. Hell, I'd buy it for my kids.
You're going to buy it for yourself.
Oh, hell yeah. But,
on page 362, we get 2 books of Alley Oop, which was a long running comic strip. This reprints, the complete Sunday strips from 1982 to 84. And then it's Alley Oop versus the Black Knight, which they don't say when it's from, but this collects the strip from that era as well. This is yet another comic strip reprint. I like comic strip reprints because comic strips in the 40s, 50s, and into the 60s, the adventure strips were just fantastic. It was a golden age where the art was still big enough that you could tell what was going on. Most of your comic artists wanted to work in comic strips because that was where the prestige was. They could tell the kind of stories they wanted. And now when you have a story strip like Rex Morgan, MD, you're lucky if a story lasts 2-3 weeks. Here, the stories would last for months, and they would be so well done. Lil Abner was like that too, where the stories, they would plant seeds for stories that wouldn't come till months later, like the annual Sadie Hawkins Day race. I really am growing to like this stuff the more of it I find. So there you go. There's some alley-oop for you.
Alley-oop. I'm back on page 302 under Sex Publishing. That's S-E-X. I'm sorry, C-E-X. Sorry. In case you think I'm wondering if I even pronounced it right. Probably. Opus and Ashes one shot. 2 best friends, one overbearing mother, trapped with no heat in a cabin during a brutal blizzard. This is Helena Santos' struggle for her life, and her life's work has just begun. Read the gripping thriller by Brent Simon and Sergei Dominich. And 2 different covers to choose from. That's all they wrote. What you got next?
Another book that I'm not buying, but I want to point out, and it's on page 376, The Babysitter's Club official coloring book, as well as The Epic Tales of Captain Underpants, The Maniacal Mischief of the Marauding Monsters. Joe, Whoopi Goldberg today announced that she was going to be writing a graphic novel with a superhero based on an older woman. And somebody posted it online from one of those news with a Z sites that said, oh, here's a book that's going to be a massive failure, blah, blah, blah. And it did not take long before people are like, well, who is this for? Why would anybody want to buy this? And I pointed out that, one, middle-aged women are one of the biggest buyers of books. And two, Whoopi Goldberg is on TV every damn day. So while this won't sell in comic shops, boy, is it going to sell in Barnes & Noble and on Amazon. And they poo-pooed it until I said, all right, name a comic that you think will do that does fantastic. And of course they chose Batman. And I said, here you go. The Babysitter's Club latest book outsold Batman in its first month. Batman sells maybe 100,000 copies if you're lucky. How much did the Babysitter's Club sell? 350,000 copies in its first month. People don't understand. They don't understand the book trade. So this Captain Underpants, which was at one point by Dev Pilkey, and now he's passed it on to other people because he's doing Dogman. These books are going to make enormous amounts of money because kids age 9 to 12 buy them like candy. Are they for me? No, not everything has to be for me. Although right next to it is a book that I may pick up. Marvel, Rocket and Groot, Little Groot, Big Feelings. It is a kid's book, 24 pages, and I have nieces and nephews who are now old enough that this kind of book is for them. Joe?
All right. On page 307, The Zacks and Other Lost Stories softcover by some cat named Theodore Seuss Geisel. And art by Ty Templeton, including with this Theodore guy. One day in the wilds of the prairie prac, coming different directions along the same track, came a north-going Zack and a south-going Zack, and suddenly both of them came to a place where they bumped and they stood foot to foot, face to face. How does this end? You think you might know, true, but if that's what you think, we've a book to show you. Original tales from Dr. Seuss himself that had long been hidden way back on the shelf are returning to you in a brand new book. So stop what you're doing and come take a look. There's two to choose from, soft cover for $25 or a hardcover for $35. This is from Comic Mix. I will swear I read the Zack story growing up.
Yeah, me too.
But this looks kind of interesting just because they're probably, hey, everybody's like, oh my God, they're getting rid of all these Dr. Seuss stories. Comics Mix says otherwise. So
well, and the other thing is the people who own Dr. Seuss can do what they want with it.
Yeah.
Because that's what he said. Now, some of his very old books may be going out of copyright. And if that happens, they're public domain. But they also could say, all right, we've got these stuff that he didn't complete or that he wrote and didn't draw, or we've taken off the shelf because the sales were low, and Comics Mix went to him and said, well, we work in the specialty market, so we would like to put that together in a book that will be aimed at collectors. Joe, jump to page 386. I'm betting you have this one.
Hang on a second. 386. Dun, dun. I do, or should I say I will.
Arn Anderson, My Life as the Enforcer. This is another of the Source Point biographies written by Dirk Manning, drawn by Colm Griffin and John Daly. This is about the legendary performer being raised by his grandparents in rural Georgia. and became one of the four horsemen, Arn Anderson, who's still on our TVs every Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll feel the impact of the first ever spine buster as you're taken through Arn's journey that forever changed the world of wrestling and pop culture alike. They seem to have Source Point seems to have gotten foot in the door at AEW to do these graphic novels.
Yep.
Joe?
And I got it through the Kickstarter. And the Kickstarter guys, learning from previous Kickstarter, says, guys, we're going to be soliciting this through Source Point Press, but don't worry because your hardcover signed copies will be coming before these are. We just want to get them published at the same time. I'm not going to go over anything, but if I did, I would spend another half hour going through every single thing from Drawn and Quarterly, page 310 to 312. Just fantastic stuff to pick up. 311. A lot of it's offered again. Some of it is like there's blankets, 20th anniversary. Take your time, look at their solicitings, read through it. You're bound to find something that you're interested in. And if I had money, I would, if I already don't have them on my shelf, like I'm pretty sure I have Wilson on page 311. I know I have, I knew I had blankets. One of my daughters probably walked off with it. So I definitely want to pick that up. On page 312 is a new one from Dren Publishing, Under a Blood Red Moon, #1. The Earth has been invaded by a race of aliens who are only interested in finding new slaves for their empire. This creates a problem for some of the other species living here, vampires, werewolves. The more humans take off the planet, the less food the vampires and werewolves have. Humanity's fate is locked between two warring fractions whose only desire is to retrieve their food source. So one way or another, the human race is really screwed. Vampires versus werewolves versus aliens. Who will claim the human race as their own? There's a standard edition and an uncensored version. Oh my. Cory?
Joe, go to page 395.
There.
This is the Taschen America LLC History of EC Comics Deluxe hardcover, listed at $200. I'm looking at it at DCB Service. It's $160. I have seen this book. It is utterly beautiful. If I could get enough overtime in the next 3 weeks, I am buying this because I've never seen it discounted anywhere. And this, it says offered again. The first time it was offered, I could not afford it. This time I may not be able to afford it either. But if I could get just two extra shifts at the group home, I can afford it. This book is beautiful. Were you there at Dreamhaven when we took a look through it?
I think I was.
Oh, it's monstrously huge. It's full of pictures and stats and internal memos, and it's a treasure trove of everything connected to EC Comics. Just beautiful. Just a beautiful book. Taschen America LLC puts out beautiful, very expensive books. I've picked up some of their stuff on discount, because every so often on their website, it's like, all right, we're clearing out the warehouse. And some of the books I picked up, they did the history of DC in 3 big volumes written by Paul Levitz. Those are enormous and gorgeous. And this EC book is just drool worthy. A good thing it was during the pandemic so I could wear a mask and I didn't get any drool on it. But $160 through DCB Service, Joe.
Oh my God, I think Cory's going to have an accident.
Joe?
Oh man, where am I? Oh, I'm on page 324. Again, another company I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through because I would buy everything here. And I'm talking about Fantagraphics. Again, fantastic stuff. The one book I looked at, I thought, I don't know if I agree with the premise. The He-Man Effect, How America's Toy Makers Sold Your Childhood. What I'm really looking at is The Buildings Are Barking by Bill Griffith. The Buildings Are Barking is Bill's tender, poetic, deeply felt comic tribute to his wife, his longtime partner, muse, copy editor, and fellow cartoonist, Diane Noman. Bill says, I am still unable to accept her death. I relive all 49 of our years together every day. How could anyone so alive, so funny, so lovely be gone? Who am I without her? So Bill summons all of his comic making expertise in order to bring his beloved Diane back to life in a remarkable act of mourning and memory. So a little tiny preview piece, if you will. But I would definitely, this one I'm definitely buying. And again, Fantagraphics is just fantastic. Always worth a look to see what kind of fun stuff they're coming up with. Cory?
My next is something I've already talked about on page 399. Back issue number 147 is the George Perez tribute issue. It's also the 20th anniversary back issue. I was kind of shocked that on Free Comic Book Day last year was the day that George Perez passed away. So we are at a year since he passed away. He was the best comic book artist during the time we were alive, Joe. Nobody handled superhero stories better than him. He was born to draw superheroes. You cannot find a picture of him at a convention where he's not smiling. He was always just happy to be in the world of comics. And I really hope that we're going to be getting some tribute books to him about his life, about the stuff he did, reprinting everything he did at Marvel and DC. A giant in the industry who I don't think anyone will ever be able to compare to his body of work. Also on the next page is the Ditko book, Working with Ditko, that I talked about. I'm a huge Ditko fan. There's not a lot out there about him because he was very much, my work is my story. I don't want to talk about myself. And in many ways, he was, I always say that I'm a very boring person. Everything about me is the stuff I know and my job. And pretty much since my son became a teenager, my life has been dull, thankfully. Ditko probably felt the same way. You know what? I do my job. He lived in a little apartment. He was not a very social person. He cared very passionately about his philosophy. He would actually, from what I hear at Marvel, as long as you didn't, as long as you were respectful, he'd talk for hours. He would debate with you. He was never dogmatic about it. He just lived his life by certain principles. And that's something to be admired, really. And a lot of people say, oh, Ditko was weird. No, Ditko decided after Marvel had screwed him that, you know what? I understand how this business works, so I'm going to give the business what it gives me. I'm not going to go out of my way. I'm not going to kill myself for this business like a lot of people do. And if Carlton leaves me alone, lets me draw, I'll work at Carlton. DC wants to give me a job and let me draw what I want to draw, I'll work at DC. When Jim Shooter came back, one of his goals was, he said, to try and bring back all of the people who worked for Marvel in the early days. But boy, he couldn't fire Gene Colan and Roy Thomas fast enough. But he did give Ditko work, and Ditko had work up through the late 80s. I believe the last book he did at Marvel was Chuck Norris Karate Commandos. How's that for weird? Mm-hmm. But I'm really looking forward to this because Jack C. Harris, one of the things about Jack C. Harris when he was at DC, he was he had diarrhea of the typewriter. If you read his editorials, he made Don McGregor look terse. So I look for this book to be filled with stories and filled with good stuff. Joe?
All right. There's about like 8 things you and I are getting on today, and we really got to I gotta say, yeah, that Ditko Books one definitely I'm going to pick up, as well as way back on page 337 under humanoids, 8 limbs. Let's see, it's a softcover graphic novel for all ages. Joanna, a retired, I think it's Muay Thai champion.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. The champion takes in a troubled foster teen and decides to train her until the teen lands herself in a dangerous situation, and Joanna must re-enter the ring to fight for her new family. And what's cool about it is that they give, let's see, there's a one-line pitch, Muay Thai found family and what it means to fight as a woman, audience, young adult, age 15 above, fans of A Map to the Sun, comic book story of professional wrestling, and stories of badass women. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of preview art, which convinced me to pick it up. And you should pick it up too, Cory.
I am nearing the end here. The next thing I have is Shudder, issue number 12. And normally I don't bring it up, but the funny thing was when we were at Mind's Eye, Butch saw a big old stack of Creeps, Shudder, and Vampiress Carmella. And was just, what are these? These are black and white horror comics. They're 52 pages. When the guy who runs it, Rich Sala, can get people who worked on stuff from Warren, he will, but he's basically putting out these love letters to Warren Comics. So I'm not saying that the art is fantastic, not saying that the stories are great, but it's a fun horror comic and it's magazine sized, and it really brings back that feeling of the old Warren Comics. Joe?
Let's see, I just want to point out in Oni, if you're a Rick and Morty fan, a new miniseries starting, Heart of Rickness. That's really all you got to say there. And also from Oni on page 368, an original graphic novel, U-Town. Writer, artist, cover by Cab. U-Town is the story of a seedy neighborhood that casts a misfit call home. Samuel is a 24-year-old self-described aspiring artist, but mostly a video store clerk, who's doing his best to avoid adulthood. When gentrification shows up at his doorstep, he must face the fact that the town he grew up in is no longer his safe haven, that he's not ready to leave just yet. He's got no money, few options. It's time for him to step up and prove his worth as a serious artist or keep on repeating old toxic behaviors. So this is perfect for fans of Scott Pilgrim. U-Town is a story of a Class A slacker faced with the prospect of growing up and moving out of their quickly gentrifying neighborhood. 3 small pages of preview art, so definitely worth picking up. Cory?
The last one I have on page 445, Marvel Comics, a manga tribute.
Yes.
The only reason I knew about this is because Tom Brevoort, Marvel, one of the big editors at Marvel, actually talked about how he had just finished his introduction to it and pointed us to it. Marvel, a manga tribute, explores Marvel's rich and enduring legacy as a pop culture phenomenon by paying homage to its most iconic characters and beloved stories. Experience a fresh take on the Marvel Universe with this collection of stunning illustrations from over 20 exceptional Japanese artists. This is the start of the Marvel manga where we're going to be getting more. Well, we've already gotten some, a Wolverine and a Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But this is more, hey, here's what this stuff is like, sort of in a way introducing Marvel to the people who buy all the Viz books and introducing Marvel people to Japanese manga. So that's it for me. Joe,
all
finish
right.
it out.
Yeah, darn right. I got, talking about books that you were, oh my God, if I got the money to buy. Mine's not as expensive. On page 370 under Pi International. The Godzilla History of Formative Arts, 1954 to 2016 bilingual edition. And it is basically covering the Godzilla from 1964 all the way to Shin Godzilla in 2016. a massive collection of rare, never-before-seen still photos from the movies, behind-the-scenes studio snapshots in chronological order, excluding the Hollywood series, bilingual explanatory texts included in each chapter to guide readers in understanding the history of Godzilla, episode by episode. It's just a Japanese art book, just crazy. It's not only for Godzilla fans, but also if you're into the Wagashi Helen Japanese art and other type forms. So starting at $99, I don't know what our price would be for it. So again, it's just one of those, if I got enough money, by the end of the load 'em up thing. Page 377, Charm City. This is under, where are we now? Scout Comics. The Baltimore police are baffled when a Ravens cheerleader is found floating in the inner harbor with an arcane symbol carved onto her corpse. And only a Sia Singer, music blogger at the Baltimore Sun, knows what it means that a serial killer is targeting Baltimore's underground witching community. She, an excommunicated witch who no longer uses magic, must decide, take the case and confront her estranged family and long-buried demons, or risk more bodies piling up. 2 different covers to choose from. Still under Scout, on page 379, Space Outlaws, the most dangerous criminals in the solar system. The F-24K prisoner has escaped from the maximum security prison on Mars. Upon fleeing the facility, he manages to reach planet Earth, where he is intent on resuming his criminal exploits. The prison's wardens, however, send the deadliest of their robots to stop the dangerous villain. This will be 3 issues from, I think, Scout Comics still. Page 381, Claudia Christensen's Dark Legacies. Claudia Christensen's, of course, actress, most known for Babylon 5, among other things. She's kind of doing The Expanse meets The Terminator meets Blade Runner in this hard-hitting action sci-fi thriller. She writes it with Chris McCauley, art by Stas Johnson. At this point in time, Earth is emerging from a dystopian past, moving from a brutal government regime to democracy. Commander Jessica Steele finds herself caught in a web of intrigue as the legacies of the totalitarian past surround her. Dark secrets are uncovered and all hell is let loose in this action blockbuster. And if you haven't heard of Stas Johnson, he's done art for 2000 AD, DC Marvel Comics. Let's see, there's Vengeful Cyborgs, Secretive Scientists, and Good Old Fashioned Heroes. Could be an ongoing series from Scratch Comics. Page 384. Nope, I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing. 394. I'll get it right one of these days. Dun, dun, dun. The Theory from T-Pub. Neil Gibson and various people do The Theory. It's a story about an astroarchaeologist working to save our future and a time traveler striving to fix our past. With a lot of mystery, The Theory is composed of short, powerful stories that combine into an overarching saga across time and space. This is trade paperback, so it's not just a single comic. On page 406, Vault Comics, Unnatural Order. It's a new series mixing dark fantasy and thrilling sci-fi. After the fall of the Britons and the Roman invasion of Hibernia, the captive known only as the Druid is released, sending his darkness across the world. An age of horrors, of fire and entrails, the innocent burn in the wicker fields. Those who would resist learn the existence of a man who is even the Druid fears, for is this prisoner, a soldier from a different time, who alone knows the Druid's secret. This is not how the world is supposed to be. I love a good time twist tale. On page 413 from Whatnot Publishing, they got a new series starting. Tom Garcia, Ryan Sargent, artist Ben Templesmith. 3 issues starting it. Crashdown. equal parts Lost in Aliens with a Lovecraftian twist. Crashdown delivers a dark vision of our world's final days. Earth is dead. Humanity's last hope is the distant planet Empyrean and the ship full of colonists ready to repopulate our civilization. But what happens when their new home doesn't want them and fights back? When you look at the covers on page 414 and 415, yeah, there's a lot of tentacles, a lot of people getting crushed. I think, yeah, Earth doesn't want them back. In case you're not sure, check out page 412. Got an interview with the creators of it. And there are a couple pages of art. Let's see. And of course, I'm going to delve into manga as well. Cory already covered the Marvel thing, but I'm also going to point out to you Street Fighter fans, Street Fighter swimsuits, bunch of covers to choose from. You go, Street Fighter. Well, let's just say when I saw this last Street Fighter book that showed up at the source, and I picked up a copy of a book I think I might be getting tomorrow. I wasn't sure it was the incentive cover. I picked it up. I went in next week, totally sold out. So there are fans of it, and this is your chance to jump on board. And now, flip your previews over, because now this is for Brian. We're in the toy side of things, and it's a little more confusing because they're mixing in what's already available with what is new. However, there are two things I got for Brian, but I'm going to let Cory talk because he hasn't talked in a while, and I got to take a drink.
If you go to page 29, here's everything that I'm interested in. First off.
Oh, wait a minute. This is for Brian, not just for us.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, I know. But this is for Brian.
Yeah, but he'll like this.
Okay.
Pop Cocaine Bear with bloody leg vinyl figure.
Yes.
All hail Cocaine Bear. Then right next to it is the Pop Foodies Hostess vinyl figures. You've got King Cupcake. What was it? Cupcake, Ho-Ho's, King Ding Dong, and Twinkie. No, these aren't the characters. It's just a cupcake, a ding dong, a ho-ho, and a Twinkie.
With eyes.
Yeah, so I guess we don't get Twinkie the Kid. And
No, that was already done.
And then down at the bottom of the page, the Little Prince, which was a story that I was one of my favorite children's stories. The Little Prince from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's beloved illustrated novella, The Little Prince. So
I thought you were going to go for the little Elvis figure suit.
You're the Elvis guy.
No,
not me.
My wife is.
Well, true.
But see, for Brian, I will go to page 66 with the Mego Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface 8-inch figure. And this has been already ordered, so if it's not available yet, it will be. Let your comic shops know it. And then, of course, since we all know that Brian is very rich and can buy anything we recommend, for a mere $55 a piece on page 68, he can get the Ren and the Stimpy Ultimate Wave. Of course, with Ren with different faces, same thing with Stimpy. And believe me, between that and the, what was that thing we saw, the Hero Clicks eye with all the tentacle things?
Oh, Shumagorath.
Yeah. I sent that to Brian. He said, yeah, that'll look good on my desk. So, Brian, we're doing our best to get you carted away. I mean, make your desk look interesting. Yeah, that's it. Interesting. Cory, what do you do with your previews when you're done?
I throw it away.
I recycle them. Yep. That's all I do.
But I have to hold on to it at least until I get my order done.
Yeah, same thing.
Now, Joe, because this is previews, we don't have as much time as we normally do because we've already gone 2 hours.
We have.
We do one freaking and one geeking. Joe, what is your freaking?
Well, I don't know if it's a freaking or a geeking, but I figured out what my health problem has been, the dizziness for the last, it was March 11th when it first started. I finally
Cocaine.
went in and saw my EMT doctor. That's eyes, nose, throat. And she looked over everything that was reported, talked to me, watched me walk, things like that. And she's pretty certain it's vestibular neuritis, and more likely viral because it hasn't really showed up in any blood work. Cory, do you know what that is?
No idea in the world.
Have you heard of Bell palsy?
Yes.
It's a similar nerves.
Oh, okay.
I know that because one of our all-time favorite pro wrestling announcers, Jim Ross, has it where his face is paralyzed. Two nerves come in from the inner ear. One, and that's affected my balance. And had the other one been affected by the virus, whatever it is, it would lead to that Bell palsy. I guess Rob Van Dam had it as well, although it, for the most part, sometimes you recover from it. Problem is, the older you are, the longer it takes. If I was 80 years old, I would probably still be dizzy and have to be doing physical therapy to learn how to walk. As it is, I told her, well, I've kind of passed that because when I first started, I couldn't walk without throwing up. Once the nausea was gone, I couldn't walk with being dizzy. I used a walker for a while. Then I used a cane. I was able to get her. I mean, it was basically, I've used like a goal where I could, okay, I'm going to get to the bathroom without falling against something. But I also knew where everything was in my house so I could lean on the table or lean against the wall and not run into corners or fall down. So she feels, as the way things are going, that I'm recovering. If it gets worse or I fail to improve, I got a number to call her direct and she'll relook at it. But I guess I'm doing as well as I'm supposed to be doing, because I told her, compared to the way it was way back on when I got out of the hospital versus now, yeah, I feel it. But, I'm concentrating on the podcast, or I'll be watching TV, or I'll be driving or digging through the dollar bins. Oh, damn, I'm so excited for next week's episode because we're going to just delve into Free Comic Book Day. Not the actual being there. Those will be episodes Cory will drop later. But there was a lot of fun, and I discovered a lot of different things. And I actually will debut a new segment next week, but perhaps too much. However, Cory, what are you freaking on?
I love hanging out with you guys. I do. Absolutely love it.
Fast.
I really love when we do our geeking. But it takes me an entire day to recover from being that out and that about and that social for that long. Sunday, I was just out of it. I had no mental capacity other than, okay, I can do some cleaning. I can do some cooking. I can watch TV. I can do some coloring. But for like anything serious, like when I started to read comics, it was like, I can't concentrate enough for this. I don't have the energy for it anymore. And I actually talked to my therapist about it on Monday, and they said, yeah, that's kind of the after effect of some of the trauma that you've been through, the anxiety that you deal with. You can go out and you can have a blast, but it takes a lot out of you. And it's just something that I have to deal with. So now whenever, we plan on going out. Now, if we go to a bunch of shops where I don't know people, cool. No big deal. But if we go and I'm talking to people and interacting a lot and, being very, very social, I need to make sure that the next day I'm not planning to do anything, because it's just like if I would have had to work the next day, I would have been very short with the clients. Or if I had to work on the phone the next day, I would have been really short with people on the phone. I wouldn't have had a lot of patience because I have so much social energy, and when it's gone, it's gone. Some people refer to it as spoons. I have so many spoons. Doing this takes a spoon. Doing that takes a spoon. And one of my friends who has something very similar, every so often when somebody will invite her out, she'll go, no spoons, only knives. Which means she doesn't have the energy, and if she goes out with people, she's going to be mean to them. So I never get to that point. I just get to the point where I just kind of clam up and kind of sit by myself. So that is my freaking. I wish I did not have that. I really do. I really wish that on Sunday, because Hot Comics Jordan continued their sale. And there were other places that, yeah, we still have stuff going on. I wanted to go and do that, but it's like, yeah, if I don't have to do it, I'm not gonna do it. Joe, what are you geeking on?
I'm geeking on some of the stuff I got through the eBays, so I'm pretty happy about. One of the books, and this is, I guess I'll preview kind of what the thing is I want to do next week, because I spend a lot of time eBaying, and as I look for different things, I discover stuff that you may not know. So this would be called, I guess I'll call it, these are things I discovered while looking other things up. Messy, but it's true. For example, if you go online, there is a Spider-Man 2 #1 Gamerverse comic book that a lot of people are thinking it's the free comic book day book that I didn't see it, I didn't get it, why is it $20, yada, yada, yada. Well, through a gentleman named Charles Lostboy, he says, I would like to clear a few things up. This particular comic book is not a free comic day book. It was gifted by Penguin to only certain shops as a promo for the video game.
Yep.
That's the Gamerverse, Spider-Man 2. The reason this book is hot is because there are millions of gamers and comic lovers who recognize the lower print run on it and want to make sure they grab a copy. For example, my shop got 0 copies and many shops around me got 0, so I went to eBay and bought them. If you choose not to get a copy because it's not your thing, then great, but please stop bashing others for collecting what they like. What did I do? I went to eBay and bought one. And don't know why, because I'll probably sell it at the next one. You know what else I bought on eBay? Remember, Cory, I talked about the Batman and the Fearsome Foursome adaptation of the Batman movie from the 60s?
Yeah.
I tagged one, and the guy came back with such a low offer on it. And I looked at it and said, it's a beat-up copy. Not like the really nice one that Dream Haven Books had for $75. But, okay, I want to read it. I'll pick it up. I remember going to Goodwill in the 70s and buying tons of books like that. Again, the one that comes to mind is The Addams Family, which was a book based on the upcoming, was it ABC show? I forget where Addams Family was. And at the end of it, the chapter actually refers to the fact that Gomez was paid a lot of money to be able to tell stories of the Addams Family. And he explained why they're so rich, even though all the stocks that they like to work in, like, Black Rose Unlimited or Arsenic Incorporated, all seem to go under because he's got the big stocks at the time, IBM, General Mill, whatever. That keeps him rich. He's just sad that the old one's going. So I want to pick this up. It looks good. The other two things I was very excited for, and I think I don't know if I showed it to you, I told you about it. I picked up a WCW comic book. This is the Marvel one from 1982. Yep. I picked up number 5 that was signed by Sting, and JSA authenticated it. That's the same guys who did my Henry Cavill Superman. Well, it's they don't give a certificate, but what they do is they have a thing saying you look up this number and it says, yes, this is indeed a signed copy by Sting and where he signed it. I was happy about that. And then I bought a copy of WCW number 12. The reason why that's significant, because the last couple copies of WCW are incredibly expensive.
Yeah, because nobody bought them.
Not most of them are pretty expensive. I mean, number 1, I found them cheap, but mint copy is supposed to be $46, but the ones that are incredibly expensive are number 9, which I think I have because it's got the Steiners on the cover, and then number 11, number 12. And I was able to pick 12 up for what I consider a decent price. And he actually, like when I do my eBay stuff, if you watch something, I tend to give an offer to that person. Of course, you guys, being our awesome listeners, you just send me a quick note and say, hey, I listened to the podcast. I see you've got that. How about that? Here's I don't know. You got War Goddess signed by 2 people from Boundless. Would you make an offer? And I'll probably get so upset with you that I'll offer you less. How dare you make me pay for close to full price? I don't do that to our loved listeners. So you can check it out. Crazy, Krayz, Crazy Comics and Stuff on Facebook as opposed to stories, or just check in with me on Facebook. You'll find it. Or Cory will say, stop bothering me. Go look at his eBay store. So I'm pretty excited about all that. You think after all the stuff I bought at Free Comic Book Day, that Joe's going to buy less. I'm sorry, Cory. What you geeking on?
I was telling the daughter-in-law that I picked her up a copy of the Witcher Free Comic Book Day comic because I didn't know if she got it or not. She's a big collector of The Witcher. She said she did not make it out. And then she let me know this. One of my coworkers is a writer, and her publisher was looking for writers, and she recommended me. I'm going to be writing a middle grade nonfiction book, and it'll be published in the fall. It's not what I typically write, but it'll be a book with my name on it, and I'm pretty excited. They gave me specific guidelines about what the book will be about and how to format. I just do the research and write the manuscript. Not very creative, but oh well. And I let her know that there are people who have created book series who aren't able to sell books anymore. And because she was like, I wanted to get some of my fiction. That's what she's very passionate about. But nope. Hey, getting a foot in the door is getting a foot in the door. And I am so happy and so excited for her. She gets 5 copies to give away. And at first I said, do you get any royalties on the book? And when she said, no, it's just a flat fee. And I said, okay, then you can give me a free copy. But if you got royalties on it, I would buy it so you would get the royalties.
And when it comes up,
let
us know, because I'll buy one. I love buying, and of course, she's got to autograph it. That's the only thing. Like I said, my old buddy Dave Dersh had his book out. We talked about twice on the podcast. Not only did I buy it on Amazon, but then I bought an autograph copy from him. So actually, I'll probably give you the copy I bought off of Amazon, so you can read it. And maybe we'll, anything we read, we'll review, especially if it's someone we know.
Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
Thank you. I can't thank everybody. Sorry.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Someone just posted they had baked some cinnamon buns. I replied, you mean ones like Grandma used to make? Now I'm blocked.
As well you should be.
Oh, well. Cory, hit my music.